So my best friend used to score 99 on 100 and sometimes even 100. I used to study hard. I mean, I used to put in a lot of efforts, but I used to fare well in all the other subjects except for maths. So I used to do decent in other subjects. So, and once an astrologer told me she's never going to get scores that is proportion to the efforts she put in. So that kind of, broke me. I cried, I cried. It was like destiny is signed against you. That's where the battlefield of mind begins. So growing up, it's a constant struggle with a single parent. It's a lot of challenges. Though in those struggles, I had an extraordinary blessing in my life. That was my grandmother. So even after her retirement as a nurse, she took up a job so that she could support my education. So from my, the entire schooling until my post graduation, I graduated in one of the top institutes in India, and she carried me throughout. Also during that time, there was not a lot of preaching that I received, but what she transferred to me was she lived a life through excellence, through character, and she just showed me how you have to live your life. And during this process, my life was quite mediocre, not great, just sailing, struggle, and filled with all unnecessary things. And then in 2012 was when I was introduced to a book called The Battlefield of Mind. So that's when I realized what as a man thinketh is his life. So if you are today how you are, it is purely because of your thoughts. There is nothing called as predestined. Everybody has an opportunity that we'll have to take on the role and to move on, to shape on. But if we are struggling, it is just, the battlefield of the mind, that in mind we have decided. And I stuck on to reading that book, and I didn't keep that book for 2 days. I completely, absorbed it. And that's when I realized my life was what it was just because of my mind. I was thinking, and if you, fill in all the garbage in your mind, it will not take a long time for your life also to smell like that. So we have to be very careful of your thoughts. You have to filter it, structure, and constantly, keep thinking positive. So of course, it's going to be a lot of challenging task because you are habitual of thinking whatever comes to your mind. But then every time a thought comes, you'll have to wait. Is it going to help me? Is it a positive thought? Is it going to build me? The neuron patterns are going to be formed like that. And once I realized that, and then, also another thing is your surrounding, your environment. A seed cannot germinate on a rock, right? So we all need a very good environment from where, people are going to be kinder to you and where you are going to learn from them. That's what is going to nurture you. So once I renewed my mind, so then I wanted to move ahead in business. I wanted to build business. I knew I was not great in maths. So I started doing maths every day, because next process, once you have your mind renewed, where you have to go is you have to acquire the skill. You have to try for excellence, because without skills you're not going to achieve. Yes, there's a lot of efforts, but the first foundation is mind. That is where it defines you. You're going to rise or are you going to fall? And books became my best friends. I started reading, acquiring a lot of skills and how doing maths every day. And then on the field, now I have renewed my mind. I have a fresh perspective. I have acquired some skills. Now I go to the field. I say, I want to do the business. And my boss says, no, she will not get into buying. And by now, I think there was, a lot of maturity in my mind. I resisted that thought. I said that, that's not going to happen. What you say about me will not define me. What I think about myself is what is going to define. And that's the same with all of us. Anybody can say. We have to love ourselves, the height we are in, the color we are in, the lips we are in, the eyes we have. We are beautifully made the way we are, and that's what Martin King Luther said when he's in his fight for the righteous movement against the colored people. So it shielded me. Then I said, eventually, I know for God has a good plan for me. I went on then eventually I went on to get into buying, and then I from just a normal assistant, I rose on to become a lead in the retail, managing few hundreds and hundreds of crores of business, delivering growth for brands, growing them, and I got a name for the for the work I used to do, and it didn't stop there at just my personal achievements. And then we went on to start a brand. Then again, the naysayers, you need a lot of investments, and there's a lot of burning that happens to build a brand. You can't build. But then we eventually, by then I knew that I could do it. And of course, there's when you want to do anything, and there has to be discipline, consistent effort what you put in, eventually path will open. We did start a brand, we did serve over a lakh of customers, and we did help build a lot of families. It's just the disciplined mind that will create a lot of job, and every job you create supports a family, and when that family lives in dignity, will help the nation rise. And that is what we are doing today, contributing to people to live a dignified life. So I would encourage you, always greater enemy is inside you. There's no greater enemy, that is outside. You have to, defeat the enemy which is inside you, and then nobody is going to stop. And after you renew your mind, have a consistent, identify your strength, your area of interest, where you want to do what you want to do, and acquire skills. Wisdom is going to make you powerful. You want to have fame, you want to have happiness, you want to move ahead in life. What is going to strong with you is not your influences. Of course, I mean, eventually it will all open, but nothing can compare. The wisdom is going to be your crowning glory for you to go ahead in life. And be courageous. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, let's crawl at least. But by all means, let's keep making some movement every day towards our dream, and it will come to true. And good luck, and let's be kind to all of us. Thank you.